again today as we did in February, so we'll test that out in a minute. And we're planning to host a short Q&A session to take some questions at the end and summarize the session and provide you with an update on our plans for next steps. We also again have a feedback and input form that will be circulated to all civil society attendees from the Asia Pacific region today. However, we will start the session today by taking a few quick minutes to recognize that today is World Hepatitis Day and provide some short updates from the VNGOC and the regional working group. So just before we begin, I'd like to advise you all that this meeting is being recorded and the recording will be published and made available on the VNGOC website. Our session today is being interpreted live into Chinese and Russian. Please select the language of your choice from the drop-down menu at the bottom of your screen. On this note, we're also aiming to translate the final version of the common position document into a range of local languages local to the Asia Pacific region. So please suggest languages that you'd like to see the final document translated into in the feedback form that we send around. So during the session today, please submit your questions at any time using the chat function. And just another reminder again, if everyone could please keep themselves on mute throughout the session and raise your hand when you'd like to speak by pressing the raise hand button under reactions under the reactions button at the bottom of the screen. We'll try our best today to translate any written text in the chat into the languages available in the session today. So if you joined us in February, we used the Slido platform to try and have much of an interactive consultation as we could. So if everyone could, if you've got access to a smartphone, you can open your camera and scan the QR code in the top left-hand side of the screen. And you'll be able to find the link and follow through, and you'll be able to submit your questions or comments to these Slido questions. You can also go through your browser, a web browser, to slido.com and type in the code 406444. So might just leave that up there for a second, and we'll just have a warm up as we'll be using this platform a little later in the session. We can also loop back to it after when we're at the Slido point as well. Got a couple of responses in there. Great, thanks Grace. Louise, glad that this is working. Thanks for joining us today. And thanks to those who are typing in the chat as well. Okay, so hi, Pauline and Gino, welcome. We might come back to this slide and hopefully it'll still work if you're still trying to work out how to get through to the Slido platform. Awareness of viral hepatitis and inflammation of the liver that causes severe liver disease such as cirrhosis and liver cancer. The theme of this year's global campaign is Hepatitis Can't Wait, to convey the urgency of efforts needed to eliminate hepatitis as a public health threat by 2030. The campaign in the Western Pacific region specifically aims to increase early testing and treatment and reduce the risk of liver cancer, using Seek Help, Get Tested Today. So you can find links and hashtags on this slide for the campaign. So there are approximately 116 million people living with hepatitis B in the World Health Organization's Western Pacific region, with 10 million people living with hepatitis C. So we know from data released in the recent UNODC World Drug Report 2021 that globally more than half of all healthy years of life lost due to disability and deaths that result from liver cancer, cirrhosis, and other chronic liver diseases caused by hepatitis C are attributable to drug use. These percentages are higher in our regions than the global average, particularly in Central Asia, Transcaucasia, South Asia, and Oceania. However, the majority of people have yet to be diagnosed and treated. If left untreated, hepatitis B and C are major risk factors for liver cancer, which is the sixth leading cause of death in the WHO's Western Pacific region. Today, we're reminded that hepatitis is preventable, treatable, and in the case of hepatitis C, curable. We can see from this figure that hep C prevalence among people who inject drugs is higher than the global average in Central Asia, Transcaucasia, East Asia, and Southeast Asia. In 2016, the World Health Assembly endorsed the first global health sector strategy on viral hepatitis. The aim of the strategy is to eliminate hepatitis C as a global public health threat by 2030 by reducing new infections by 90% and mortality by 65%. Given the high prevalence and adverse health consequences resulting from hep C among people who inject drugs, this population is regarded as a priority in efforts towards achieving these targets. The recently agreed UN General Assembly Political Declaration on HIV/AIDS also underscores that combination HIV prevention can also reduce transmission of viral hepatitis for people who inject drugs, and this includes harm reduction interventions such as needle and syringe programs, opioid substitution therapy, targeted information, education, and communication for people who inject drugs, and vaccination, diagnosis, and treatment of viral hepatitis. Hep B and C do not show symptoms until they're at the advanced stages of infections. So if you or your family, friends, and service users are at risk, it's important for people to know their hepatitis status. So thank you very much for Hepatitis Australia for sending through some information and these resources to remind us of World Hep Day today. Collaboration between NGOs and the relevant international agencies, enhance communication, cooperation and exchanges through NGOs, UN agencies and member states, and to ensure balanced representation of the broad range of civil society organizations and perspectives, including those of affected populations. So currently, the VNGOC has 326 member organizations from around the world, with 88 or over a quarter from the Asia Pacific region, so Asia and Oceania combined. Really excited to say that just in the last kind of 6 to 9 months since we've built up this working group, we've had quite a big increase in VNGOC members from the region, which is really great to see. So if you're not currently a VNGOC member, please visit our website and sign up. The criteria include being an NGO registered through the UNDESA system and being an NGO that specifically works in the field of narcotic drugs. The VNGOC board meetings are usually held once every 3 months, in which new members are approved. Once admitted, NGOs need to pay an annual membership fee to be considered in good standing and participate in the annual VNGOC AGM. Oh, sorry, I wasn't watching the slide. And just for some upcoming events that we have for the rest of the year for the VNGOC, my colleagues and fellow working group members will go through the upcoming events specific to this group, but the key international upcoming events are listed on this slide. So there are 2 remaining CND sessions this year, including the October thematic intersessional, which this year is focused on crime and drug trafficking. The VNGOC will also be, or we will be issuing a call for civil society speakers for this event in August or early September. We'll then have the regular reconvene session of the 64th CND in December. And this year we'll also have an extraordinary general meeting later this year for the VNGOC to appoint an elections committee as decided in the April AGM. And just finally, for the VNGOC, we just wanted to add a reminder to all of our civil society colleagues of the NGO marketplace a joint project by UNODC and the VNGOC that was developed with funding from Russia. The Marketplace is an interactive online platform for drug policy NGOs, allowing us to share our work, events and news, and to network with other NGOs in the sector. It's also, for member states and UN agencies, a really useful database when it comes to the work being done by drug policy. So now we're going to go into a bit more specific information about the working group, but first off, I'd just like to announce and welcome our new working group members that have joined us very recently and will be coming on board in the next few months with the VNGOC Asia Pacific Working Group. So you already know Augusto and Samir and Sana from our recent meetings, but we're very happy to welcome Ramli Samad from Pengasi, Malaysia, Neneng Ati from IG Semitic, Indonesia, Marianne Phillips from the Australasian Palliative Link International from Australia and Oceania, and Gloria Lai from IDPC in Thailand. We're also still looking for a working group member from the Central Asia region. So if you're from that region, please send us an email and fill out the form and let us know that if you're interested in joining. So we've also just put a map together for all of the countries that are relevant to the Asia Pacific consultation and to the working group. And we'll make that available on the website as well. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Mr. Samir Kumar Das, who's going to provide us with an update from the working group, the Asia Pacific Working Group itself. Mr. Das, are you able to unmute yourself and speak? We had Mr. Das earlier.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. It's my pleasure to introduce the new members in the Asian group. Ramli Samad, Naneng Ati Naneng Samad, Mr. Palde Malaysia, Neneng Ati from Indonesia, Marianne Philippi from Australia, and Gloria Lal from Thailand. I'm congratulating all the new members joining us in this working group. So we want this all the members will be unanimously will work for Asia Pacific, and there will be no controversy in within the board members. So we should all will be all will give the full assent from any point of any views we will pass, that will be unanimously passed by the members by the working group. So I want all these members unanimously will be accommodated in all our consent, in all the consent from the working group of Asia. So should I read this Asia Pacific Common Position Drug Policy this group? Should I read this, or it will be in the next meeting? Whether it will be discussed in next meeting, madam? Hello.
Thanks, Mr. Das. Did you want to move into your speaking notes that you sent through on the common position?
Yeah. No, actually, the common position I've seen here, but whether it will be discussed in this meeting or next meeting.
Sorry?
Whether this Asian Pacific Common Position on Drug Policy, which I have written, that will be discussed in this meeting or next meeting.
Yeah, we can go through it this meeting.
So should I read it thoroughly, or it is seen in the board also?
I'm not sure. If you don't want to go through this now, we might move to Augusto to speak to the common position.
No, this actually I have verified this one, whether it is accepted by the board or not. That is depending upon the all the members are here.
Okay. We might just send your notes through to everyone who's joining the meeting today. Augusto, maybe if we move through. I'll just bring this up again.
All right. So, ready to go? Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Augusto Nogueira from ARTM Macau. And in the last meeting, actually, I already read this part of this draft consensus. So since then, we received more suggestions and comments during the last few months, which we add to draft consensus. So I'm going to try to read the first draft consensus that afterwards we can all discuss and comment to add or to remove whatever we wish to do to achieve our final consensus. So throughout Asia and the Pacific, despite the long-standing efforts of member states, we continue to observe poorly designed drug policies that only serve to criminalize and disproportionately punish people who use drugs. Some of these policies include harsh enforcement measures such as corporal punishment, as well as mass incarceration, extrajudicial killings, avoidable risk exposure to HIV/AIDS and hepatitis C, and compulsory drug detention and rehabilitation centers. Indeed, the current lack of evidence-informed drug prevention, education, harm reduction, and treatment approach in the region is exacerbated by the continued persecution of people who use drugs. This is a situation that greatly increased the level of stigma and discrimination experienced by people who use drugs. Volunteer evidence-informed and rights-based health and social service in the community must be accessible to people who use drugs in the Asia-Pacific region. Despite the continued efforts and investment in supply reduction and war on drugs approach, we can see even with the current restrictions due to the COVID-19, there's still large amounts of drugs being produced and trafficked throughout the Asia-Pacific region. There are continually increasing rates of incarceration for drug offenses with limited measures of releasing people in light of COVID-19. Even where there were such measures, people imprisoned for drug offense were not eligible. Accordingly, we are seeking to build a consensus that could reflect a strong level of support for placing health, human rights, and evidence at the center of all countries in the region to addressing drug policies. We are aware as a growing region all along our development, highest demand of opium in some parts in Asia, and growing concerns related to methamphetamine and other synthetic drugs. We are also seeking a review of current drug laws and practices in Asia Pacific, as well as taking in consideration the good examples and development already in place from some NGOs and member states in the region. This common position proposed by and with the civil society members from the region calls for regional member states and the UNODC to first recognize that prevention of drug use should be one of the pillars of any comprehensive response to drug use in society, and particularly there should be a focus on young people within prevention efforts to delay initiation into drug use, illegal and legal, and thus reducing the prevalence of problematic drug use in adulthood. Evidence-based prevention and harm reduction programs that focus on Asia Pacific should be grounded in science, receive ongoing evaluation, and be shared throughout the region. Address drug use as a public health issue, support people dependent on drugs through quality evidence-based treatment and recovery service, and remove barriers to accessing health and harm reduction service for people who use drugs. Ensure the implementation of the revised edition of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime and the World Health Organization International Standards on Drug Use Prevention 2018 and International Standards for Treatment of Drug Use Disorders 2019 and normative guidance on harm reduction. implement the 2016 UNGAS outcome document, 2019 ministerial declaration on strengthening our actions at the national, regional, and international levels to accelerate the implementation of our joint commitments to address and counter the world drug problem, and political declaration on HIV/AIDS, ending inequalities and getting track on ends to end AIDS by 2030. Ensure law enforcement response target the most serious drug offense, organized crime, and high-level corruption, not low-level, no-violent drug offenses, in particular drug trafficking and related serious problems of corruption and money laundering should be the priority for law enforcement. Emphasize that a comprehensive package of harm reduction intervention as outlined in the political declaration on HIV and AIDS, ending inequalities and getting on track to end AIDS by 2030, including needle and syringe programs and other proven harm reduction measures, are essential tools and vehicles to reduce HIV/AIDS and other blood-borne viruses, and therefore should be supported by all governments and deliver in cooperation with NGOs. There is a strong need for harm reduction approach for people who use synthetic drugs such as methamphetamine, and in specific settings such as amongst men who have sex with men, given emerging focus on the sham sex in the region and sex workers. Commit to the targets contained in the World Health Organization Global Health Sector Strategy on Viral Hepatitis for the period 2016-2021, including achieving by 2030 a 90% reduction in new cases of chronic viral hepatitis B and C infections and 65% in reduction in viral hepatitis B and C deaths, 62 in 7. For government agencies, and regional mechanisms such as Asian entities with responsibility for drug policy to collaborate with civil society and to enable them to have a more active role in the formulation and implementation of drug policies and programs based on the evidence. Acknowledge that many NGOs have the expertise, accountability, and community connections to be highly aware of the drug trends and characteristics and needs of the people who use drugs. Civil society has and continues to gather crucial data and has a valuable knowledge which can be shared. Increase civil society participation in high-level UN drug meetings, including the Commission on Narcotics Drugs and key UNODC document information such as UNODC strategies, through consulting with the local civil society organizations in the region and supporting their attendance in meetings. Acknowledge the invaluable expertise of and participation role that people who use drugs and people with life experience play in shaping successful drug policies and response to the world drug situation. Recognize as appropriate and in accordance with the national legislation, United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Provide great assistance from the developed country foreign aid budgets to complement the current high levels of supply reduction assistance for Pacific Island member states, with aid to support the establishment of evidence-based drug prevention, treatment programs, and harm reduction measures. Establish and support an Asia-Pacific monitoring center on drug issues under the auspices of UNODC to gather valuable and reliable data on the drug situation in the region, working with academics, and civil society. Remove criminal sanctions for low-level, no-violent drug offense in line with the UN Drug Conventions and the UN System Common Position 2018. Emphasize the need for a creation of an inclusive and balanced platform with the Asia-Pacific region for civil society to hear their views, share the best evidence-based practices, and contribute to regional dialogue related to drugs. Commit to the propagation of the principle of balance with every country and every healthcare system, accepting a dual responsibility to ensure access to essential medicines, including controlled medicines for those who need pain relief, while at the same time ensuring measures to prevent inappropriate and non-medical use of opioids. Implement in accordance with the International Drug Control Conventions, effective harm reduction measures and initiatives for the non-medical use of synthetic drugs, particularly synthetic opioids, by raising awareness and promoting increased access to and availability of evidence-based prevention, treatment, and recovery service, including access to naloxone, used for reverse of opioid overdose and other opioid blocking medicines and evidence-based measures. Promote within national and regional context, no stigmatizing attitudes in the development and implementation of scientific evidence-based policies related to the availability of access to and delivery of healthcare and social service for drug users, and to reduce any possible discrimination, exclusion, or prejudice that those people may encounter, in line with the Commission Resolution 61/1. Implement women-specific responses in terms of drug treatment, harm reduction, alongside responses to address the gender-based violence experience, including in criminal justice settings. Commit to the goals of the UN System Common Position 2018 with the framework of 2030 agenda, with a view to implementing truly balanced, comprehensive, integrated, evidence-based, human rights-based, development-oriented, and sustainable response to the world drug situation. That's it. This is our.
Thanks, Gus. I didn't quite realize that you were planning to read through the whole document, but now now everyone is very much across what is in there. So I guess I just wanted to ask Augusto, once you have a sip of water, if you could just run us quickly through how we pulled this together from the responses. So just before we go into the Slido bit where we'll talk about what's in there and what's missing, just so everybody knows that we pulled this first draft together from the form responses we got from the February and April sessions. So did you want to speak to that process anymore, Augusto?
No, yes, we have those that meeting, and then the people send us their responses and their suggestions. So then we analyze all the responses and from all the members that they did it, and basically we just I just saw which ones to avoid repeat from the same NGO, from different NGOs. So we just combine what they are suggesting, and I just add up over here in this draft consensus. So basically is that we didn't left anything behind, because those ones that suggest something that nobody else suggests, we also input there. So this, I think, is very comprehensive consensus. Of course, that now we need to go more forward with that. But yes, all opinions that and suggestions we try to input over here in that consensus.
Yeah, so and as we mentioned before, we'll send around a form again
Exactly.
for everyone to provide more feedback. So if you feel like your most important points aren't in there, that's fine. We're still taking on feedback. This is by no means the final draft. This is the very first draft. So we might run into the Slido again. So thank you, everyone. It looks like there's been more people figuring out how to use Slido. So thank you to everyone who's managed to figure that out so far. So we'll run into a couple of questions okay. So the most important topic to include. So I believe if you've scanned the QR code, it should have updated on your browser or your smartphone. So I'll just give everyone a minute to hopefully get some responses in there. And just as we're trying to use this platform to make it more interactive, so please make your input just as brief as possible, and then you can follow up sending us as much detail as you'd like to as well. So I just don't want you to put too much detail in now and then we move on too quickly. So okay, I have some Sarah in the back end, but I can't see them updating on the slide.
Penny, you might need to click. Oh.
Sorry, everyone. Oh, now we're going backwards.
Hello.
This isn't probably going to be the best way to do this, but I'll just show another screen. Okay. We're at least seeing some things come through. Sorry, everybody.
Penny, I think you also have to push the play button on the first question again, because for me, there's no way to enter again. Or I just tested it.
I wonder why it's working for the first one, but not for this one.
Now it's working fine again, Penny.
You can see that on the screen? Or it's just working? Not the most ideal thing, but at least we can see it on. And we'll also keep these polls open so you can keep voting and telling us what you think. Can everyone see on the platform they're using to input the information? Can you see the word cloud on your own platform?
Sorry again to interrupt, Penny. I think you can, if you click show results, that might happen.
Yeah, that's what I pressed before. Okay, so there's a couple around the rights of the child, commitment to children, Article 33, human rights has 2 votes, evidence-based treatment, demand reduction, universal human rights, harm reduction. This is good. This is showing how diverse our all of our work is. And we'll also pull the text out of the chat as well to take on your feedback. Lack of access to essential pain medicines, sexuality and intersectionality.
Hello, Penny. Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, Joe Baxter from Drug Free Australia.
Sorry, I've got a couple of screens here. Hi, Joe, how are you?
Good. Just to let you know, I did this questionnaire prior to the meeting, so I'm hoping that information can be incorporated.
Yes, we saw that come through, and I saw the level of detail as well. So I haven't had a chance, so we haven't had a chance as a group to go through it. Our first meeting following this meeting will be in mid-August. So that's when we'll go through as the working group and incorporate all the extra feedback, and then we'll try and get back to all of the attendees and people putting in feedback following that date. So thank you so much for that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so why don't we move on to the next one? I know this isn't, and thanks Joe for piping up, because it feels a bit lonely up here, and I'm doing a lot of speaking along with Augusto and Mr. Das. So please jump in. We did want to make this as interactive as possible, keeping in mind that we didn't know how busy the meeting would be, and there's a lot of people in here. So just please be respectful that there are a lot of people that may want to speak. So let's see if we can go with this one. So Sarah, we have this on the screen. It looks like we can start sharing this one.
Yeah.
And this is something that would also be good to get a bit more background information. So maybe not the best topic for the interactive consultation, because as we know, we're a very diverse group, and there will be paragraphs that are supported by some and not by others from the whole spectrum of all of our perspectives. So if you are giving us feedback on this point, please put some detail into your responses, because we'll take that all on board. It's such a shame this isn't working. Maybe we just got lucky with the February meeting when everything went so well. But I'm not sure. Maybe it's the type, Sarah, like the type worked for the first type of poll.
Yeah, I think it's just I mean, like Penny is saying, I mean, there's different opinions, different thoughts, different spectrum of and of all these opinions regarding the paragraphs, the draft. Also, some NGOs that are more free to support, other ones maybe not so free to support, as we know Asia how it is. But I think it's very important for us to put all the differences apart, and we try to achieve a consensus. And if we manage that, I think it's a big victory for us, for a region, for Asia, to see many different associations. So we managed to achieve a consensus despite all the different opinions and ways of facing the drug situation in Asia. So I apply to all of us to put our differentiations apart, and let's work together to build this this draft.
Sorry, I just muted myself because sometimes my computer makes this loud noise with my fan, but there was a comment in the chat what the code was, so I've just put the right screen back up. So the code, we might put the code in the chat of 40644, just in case people are still trying to get in.
Penny, I think there is another raised hand in among the participants. Odette Spruce.
Oh, sorry, I've got too many things to look at. Odette, sorry, I can't see you, but please, please speak up.
Thank you. You're doing a great job. It's like I don't know, film production or something. Look, I think most, as you know, I come from the palliative care background perspective. And while it's wonderful to see the point about committing to the principle of balance, it's almost countered by the fact that it's only one point in a document of about, I don't know, 30 points or however, with no fleshing out of what that really means. And as we know, this principle of balance has been out there for 60 years, and yet we still have a critical issue in the lack of availability of essential pain medications. And you know, the World Drug Report really points to this region, Southeast Asia, Asia, Oceania, Polynesia, etc., as being critically low. So I think it deserves more than just a kind of a repeating of what's been said repeatedly. And in this document, I'd love to see it being addressed more, you know, vigorously, even if it just means enough words. Anyway, thank you.
No, thank you. And you've segued us right into the next point of what's missing and what we could elaborate more on. So thank you so much, Odette. And we're really excited as well to welcome Marianne. I'm not sure if she's been able to join us today, but to the working group to ensure that we have a voice of an organization working towards access to essential medicines. So we're more than happy to take that feedback on and elaborate. And I think as a working group, we could find consensus in the fact that we do want to explore broader statements we could put in there than, as you say, the statements that have just been repeated and repeated and repeated. So happy to take feedback on that as well, and especially suggestions for text.
We have Marianne online. Maybe she can.
Oh, great. Welcome, Marianne. Thank you.
I don't have anything to add at the moment. I echo Odette's concern to have a balanced approach around the whole thing, and not just focus on the inappropriate use of opioids, because there's many appropriate uses.
Thank you.
So we've also had a suggestion to focus on children's safety, and we had a couple in the last poll for the rights of the child as well. Please speak up if you'd like to speak to this point at the moment, if you have access to a microphone. Because we'd love to hear more about this point and what we could add to the common position. But maybe we should just take this as feedback, Augusto, that we've done a good job. There's not too much missing. Sorry, I think, Joe, was that your hand?
Yeah, I'd very much like to speak to the rights of the child, and the fact that there's growing evidence across the world about some of the harms that affect children when their parents choose to use drugs. And I think we need to look at that research and just realise these are our emerging generation. These are the people we really do need to protect. We certainly need to help people that are drug affected and when their health deteriorates as a result of that. But there is that sense of balance and looking at who else is affected by that behaviour, and to give some balance in helping those situations. So it's part of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child to protect children from being in environments when they're going to see people using drugs. They may be even included in some of the trafficking at a local level. And we have to just be aware that there needs to be some strategies in place to prevent that happening. And poverty is one of the key things to look at as well, to alleviate some of the suffering there.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks. This is Diana. I put in that point there, and I was really hoping that this will have its focus in the document as well, primarily because we work with the safety of children. One is the angle that Joe mentioned about the children whose parents are taking to drugs and going into treatment and their safety. The other is also children who have direct access to drugs in environments that either self-produce or trade them. And at least in the Indian context, we see that we have national programs that focus on the enforcement per se, but there is not a lot of emphasis on the prevention work when it comes to children and young adults. And that's something that we really want to bring to the table, because our children really are suffering. And then there is an added layer of the access to internet and trade over the net, access to drugs over the internet. And that's a big issue for us. So I'm hoping that the document will comprehensively add these points as well.
I would like to.
Thank you. Oh, yep.
Yeah,
Go ahead, sorry.
All right. I would like also to touch on the rights of the clients or people who use drugs. In countries where there's enforcement handling them, and their safety is much to question. We have a few incidences of I would say abuse or human rights violation. So this also need to be included.
Can you be more specific about those abuse of human rights?
Yeah, for instance, if a family member reports and the enforcement agency go and apprehend, and many things happens during this. So it'll be good to have a general, I would say, a blanket statement assuring the safety of these clients or people who use drugs.
Absolutely. Thank you. They're all really important points to add for us to elaborate on for the next version of the draft.
Good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon.
I'm Dr. Bharat Bhushan from India, New Delhi.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Did you have a point, or did you want to raise a point as well?
Yes, I have three questions. In the first paragraph, last line, compulsory detention and rehabilitation center should not be there. But in my opinion, in our country, when the parents are being beaten by the drug user, families are beaten by the drug user, children are beaten by the drug user, and no law enforcement agency is helping them, no relative is helping them, only this compulsory detention centers are helping these families. So I agree in somewhere or in some cases, if police, if law, and if nobody is helping these families, who should help them?
So in some way, you want to share that you agree with the drug compulsory treatment centers as a way of protecting the families of the people that use drugs. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so I think we can definitely get back to that. I can't find it really quickly in the document, but we can definitely flag that paragraph to come back to and take extra comments on. Thank you. Oh, look what's working. An hour into the session. Thank you, Slido. So yeah, ensuring access, comment on local production if possible, and COVID and the we saw an interruption in the global supply chain. That's something I don't know if we touched too much on in the draft, did we, Augusto?
Which one, sorry, Canon?
Can you see the Slido screen?
Wait. Was no, I didn't have nothing related to this one. We can take in consideration.
Yeah. I think that's a good point for our region. So we might move on. I can't see, I've got so many things. I can't see if anyone else has their hand up at the moment, but we might move to the final Slido slide now that Slido seems to be working, and it's a more interactive slide. So we thought, why don't we try and see what the main call of action, if we can, what it looks like in terms of consensus to try and find what our kind of main message should be in the for the overall common position. And if we haven't, if you'd like to make a suggestion, please put it in the chat or speak up, or put it in the feedback form afterwards. Is that working? I can't see that anyone's voted, so I'm wondering if it's working. Oh, here we go.
No, okay.
Awesome. So we'll leave that for a couple of minutes. I can see 2 people are in, but I know we had about 13 responses to the first name warm-up poll. So hopefully we can get a couple more responses for this one. And thanks everybody for bearing with us with our technical issues, but it's been great to hear from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I leave that one open, then people can still keep voting, and we might be able to come back to it at the end and see if we have more responses. So we might hand over, because we set this meeting for an hour and a half, didn't we? So we might very well finish early, which I'm sure everyone's happy to do. No, meetings don't usually finish early, but we will have time at the end for more Q&A. So I might just hand over to my colleague, Mr. Rathore from the Pakistan Youth Organization, to just summarize our plans for the rest of the year. And then we can have more Q&A at the end if we'd like.
Thank you very much, Penny, and my other colleagues, Sarah, Augusto, and Mr. Das. You did a great job today. I think we present very well the common position of drugs. So can everyone mute yourself? Then I can present my next step of what we are doing from the VNGOC Ad-Hoc working group. So at first, my colleague mentioned earlier, we started the common position in February 2021. So that was the kickoff meeting to discuss a common position on drugs. And later on, the working group arranged a side event led by the VNGOC to promote discussion around the Asia Pacific common position. So this one of the great event which conducted by the working group. So after this one too, we have received different suggestions and comments from the different organizations from Asia Pacific region. And then after that suggestion and comments, the working group prepare the first draft of common position on drug, which presented today by Augusto and Penny. And I am hoping that you can send your suggestion and comments through the email, and as well as you can use your chat box, what you want, which one is missing, and you want to add something in the draft. Because this one is still draft, you can add something. If you want something is missing, you can send your suggestion. If you something you want to more elaboration in that area, which we did the exercise on Slido by Penny, you can have the opportunity to send the suggestion to the info at VNGOC, and also you can use the chat box, so that we can think that every organization which working on the drug narcotics given the inputs, then we present the good draft in the next upcoming CND. So the next step is we are planning that in October and November, we are planning to conduct a virtual or in-person consultation of the Asian Pacific region NGOs to finalize this common position draft. Then after finalization, we can able to present in this upcoming CND, which supposed to be held in March 2022. So we are hoping and trying to get some support from the different organization. If the COVID-19 situation will better in future, then might be we will conduct the in-person meeting for finalization of this common position on drug draft. And if the situation not well, then might be we again conduct the virtual consultation in October or November. So after this, we can the working group finalize this draft and share with the other organization. Then if they have also want to add something, then we have a final draft, then which we will present in the CND, upcoming CND in March 2022. So I would also take this opportunity to welcome the new members of the working group, and we're hoping that they will also work with us, and we can move better working group output in coming days. So I also would like to congratulate my the first 4 working group member, Ms. Penny, Mr. Augusto, and Mr. Das, which did a great job. We met every month and we discussed the various things, and then we able to come to this position. We try to unite the NGOs of Asia Pacific, and then now we are able to in position to hold the different consultation, and today this one is also the this event is also organized by the this working group. So this one is our next step we are planning in future. So now I would like to share some summary of the today event, that as you know, in the Mr. Penny welcome the session, because I'm presenting the summary because some people might be join us late. So then that's why I'm giving you the summary that what happened in our regional consultation. First of all, Mr. Penny welcomed all the participant, and then he shared some information about the World Hepatitis Day, and then she also shared the updates about the VNGOC and updates of the working group, which we did in the past. And after that, Mr. Augusto presented the common position on drugs, and we also received some input from the attendees, and they given the different, they participate in the poll and give their suggestions. And after that, I also share our next planning for the working group. And now I think we have also taken some questions from the participant. Can Penny, we now able to have some time to open the floor for the question to the participants? Can you let us know?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I'm not on mute, am I? We can absolutely stay on. We did allocate another half hour for the meeting, so if there was questions from the attendees to anybody in the working group, particularly about the processes or next steps, as we've said, probably really detailed information about the common position and what to put in would be best sent through in text form so that we can make sure it's put in there. But we can definitely open the floor. I've just put this beautiful map that Sarah's created for us for our region in front of us to show how many countries are actually involved in this consultation. But please, if I should probably look at the list of participants to see if anyone's hand is up. But was there anybody that had any questions or comments before we close the session today? Mr. Rathore, I can see that your other login has your hand up. I don't know if you meant to do that. But
so Sarah also share in the chat box the link of the draft of common position. Then everyone can see the draft online, and also have the opportunity to save the draft. And if someone also want to share some suggestions or comments after the consultation, then they also can do this.
absolutely. And we tried to make, we did send around the draft in the original email, but maybe by making it a short URL code, people might have missed it in there. It's really hard to send an actual attachment through the Zoom platform. So if you didn't have a chance to look at the common position before today and you don't feel like you can really comment yet, please just send your comments through. But as Mr. Rathore outlined, we still have about 9 or so months before we're hoping to present the final version of the common position. So we will come back to you with another version in the next month or 2 months, I think, and try and get it going from there. So really happy to take on any feedback or comments from anyone who's attended today and any of your colleagues from the region. Got some thumbs up, thank you. I don't see any hands for questions, so thank you, Sarah, for being very active on the chat and responding to questions, but we might actually close the meeting early. Mr. Rathore, did you have any closing comments, or got a lot of reactions there? Thank you. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for contributing today. Happy to take on all your feedback, and please have a wonderful evening or afternoon or morning, wherever you are in the world. And just a final reminder about World Hepatitis Day and raising awareness on such an important day. Thank you for joining us. So we might close the meeting there. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Well done, Penny, Augusta. Well done.
Thank you, Gino.
Thank you.
Thanks, Augusta.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much.